Doctor Who was originally created as an educational show for families to teach children about science concepts and historical events. But as you can see, that's not exactly what happened. 60s Doctor Who may have some questionable special effects. Well, so does New Who, to be honest. But there's something about the black and white era that's actually quite creepy, especially for a family show, and the lack of colour and those creaky sets really have an unsettling feel to them. For anyone who doesn't know, the Doctor is a time-travelling alien who changes his appearance each time he dies. This allows for new actors to take over the role. The black and white era consists of the first and second Doctor's runs on the show. So in this video, I'm going to take a look at the first two Doctor's runs from the 60s and talk about what makes them so creepy. So first of all, I really like the black and white picture. It turns the cheap looking sets shadowy and mysterious, and even the silliest of masks can look unsettling. I mean, look at that thing.
Doctor!
I can only imagine being a kid in the 60s and seeing one of those things creep into shot on a fuzzy TV screen. Sadly, a lot of the first and second Doctor's episodes no longer exist, as the BBC decided no one would want to watch them in the future, and destroyed a lot of them. However, that story is a whole other video. Many were recovered, and thankfully they all exist in audio form, due to someone recording it off their TV. The very first serial, An Unearthly Child, really gets that mysterious vibe straight away, and I'd encourage any Doctor Who fan to watch the first episode of the first serial. It's a great introduction to the Doctor, and it's set in an eerie junkyard where two teachers, Ian and Barbara, discover the TARDIS, the Doctor's time machine, and it's here we first meet the Doctor.
You're treating us like children.
Am I? Children of my civilization would be insulted.
Your civilization?
Yes, my civilization. I tolerate this century, but I don't enjoy it.
The Edge of Destruction is another great example of the creepy vibe. It actually feels more like a psychological horror, and is set entirely in the TARDIS with the crew trapped inside. And things start to go wrong, shall we say.
I mean, how would anything get into the ship anyway? The doors were open. Yes, but where would it hide? In one of us. Susan, why don't you give me those scissors? Give them to me.
I can't believe this episode was originally a filler episode, and it has the Doctor and his companions turning on each other, and the fact that it's all set in the TARDIS makes it feel claustrophobic. You've also got episodes like The Web of Fear, where the second Doctor has to search the abandoned London Underground. And don't even get me started on the Mind Robber. The TARDIS malfunctions and they end up outside reality, and the whole thing is just wrong. The first episode ends with the TARDIS exploding, leaving the Doctor floating in a void. His companion Zoe clings to the console screaming.
Jamie, the Doctor!
And that's just episode 1. Is this really a family show? Now let's talk about the monsters and villains. Maybe this is controversial, but I actually prefer the 60s Daleks and Cybermen.
You shall be like us.
I mean, the Daleks are kinda silly anyway, but I really love their debut episode, and it actually manages to make them feel somewhat scary. They make their first appearance as Barbara is trapped, in another claustrophobic looking set. Also, I prefer the Daleks' original voices too.
My legs!
You will recover shortly, unless you force us to use our weapons again. In that case, the condition will be permanent.
I was never really the biggest fan of the new Cybermen. They always seemed too robotic, and less, well, human. The original Cybermen, and yes, I know they've made a reappearance, were much creepier. You can just about see their human eyes under the mask, and as they speak, their mouth just opens, and a robotic voice comes out, rather than them just talking. It's a strange artificial sounding voice, that doesn't get the tones and inflections right, but the Cybermen really peak in the second Doctor's run. The Tomb of the Cybermen is one of my favourite episodes, and it also has that claustrophobic feel. Some of the darkest moments in 60s Doctor Who really push the family show label. In fact, while the serial Fury from the Deep is mostly missing, one of the clips that was censored survives, as it was considered too disturbing. I mean, what the hell is that? Look at that guy's expression. In Australia, that part was removed, which is one of the only reasons it exists. I'm sure originally when it broadcast in Britain, it scared a lot of young kids. What were they thinking with that? Then you have Katarina's death. Sadly that episode is lost, but the audio still exists. There's clips of it, and it's the first companion death. In modern Doctor Who, the Doctor usually only has companions from whenever the real show is being broadcast. But in the early seasons, the Doctor would sometimes have companions from the future, or in this case from ancient Greece. But they soon figured out the difficulties with that, as sending someone from ancient Greece to space, or into the future, will have its issues narratively. So they decided to kill Katarina off pretty quickly, and the way they decided to do that was ejecting her into space through an airlock, and she became the first companion to die. It's a shame the scene is lost, because the clips we do have along with the audio make the scene sound really intense.
Katarina! Katarina! I hope she's reached that place of perfection. Yes, but not that way. She didn't understand. She couldn't understand. She wanted to save our lives, and perhaps the lives of all the other beings of the solar system. I hope she's found her perfection.
I've heard that someone from the production crew of 2001: A Space Odyssey contacted the director to see how they filmed the scene where her body's drifting in space. And let's not forget the final episode of the second Doctor, the last black and white episode, capping it off in horrifying style. The Doctor's people, the Time Lords, make their first appearance, and they force the Doctor to say goodbye to his companions, who then have their memories wiped. He's then basically sentenced to death. At the time, regeneration was basically an appearance change, but with the context added from later episodes, they're basically sentencing him to death. He dies spinning around, fading into the darkness. And that Doctor was such a kind Doctor, and to see him die like that really was quite dark. This depiction of the Time Lords is actually my favourite. They're cold, and have an almost omnipotent feel to them. And they actually remind me of the elves from Lord of the Rings.
We have accepted your plea that there is evil in the universe that must be fought, and that you still have a part to play in that battle.
We barely get any explanation of their powers, and that makes them seem all the more scary, the way they loom over the Doctor like judges. They even sentence a man to death, but not just an ordinary death. He's basically taken out of time, as though he never existed. So that's why I love 60s Doctor Who, in all its creepiness. I'd even say the first Doctor is my second favourite incarnation, after David Tennant. I really love the old school Daleks and Cybermen, and especially the Time Lords. Sure, modern Doctor Who definitely has better special effects and faster pacing, but there's just something about the black and white era that New Who wasn't able to replicate, or even later classic Who. If you've got any episodes from that era that you love, let me know in the comments. What's your favourite episode? And are you like me and you prefer the old Daleks and Cybermen, and the Time Lords as well? I'm Firelink Frontier and I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe.